Ahoy hoy, fellow armchair Imagineers, Tiki here.
And Jacob Wile too.
And welcome to our long overdue but very timely Season 1 retrospective for DuckTales, a woohoo.
Mm.
Alright, so Jacob, we promised we were going to do this at the end of Season 1, and you know what? Thank God for the brief turnaround between Season 1 and Season 2, because A, Season 1 was awesome, it ended on a great cliffhanger, can't wait to see what gets resolved with Season 2, can't wait for potentially the moon level as an episode. As I kind of stoked the fires on. But Jacob, we're here to go through basically give our final thoughts on each and every episode from season one. Basically, my overall thoughts on season one is I thought it was it was a show that was kind of hampered by a bizarre airing schedule early on, but at a certain point, basically after House of the Lucky Gander, which was kind of a low point that we'll get to at least on my end, the show really got going and it got going good, and there might have been a couple episodes in between where it was like, all right, that was a fine episode, but not a lot happened. It felt like kind of a filler episode. But overall, Jacob, especially the last stretch of episodes, like everything, basically everything from the McDuck family episode where they go to the manor, everything from that point forward in season one is just gold to me, and it doesn't let up. And so, with that in mind, what is your overall stance on season one, Jacob?
Pretty much the same as you. I mean, like it apparently due to the erratic airing nature, which seemed to have smoothed itself out. It definitely had a very strange erratic nature at the very beginning, as we all know. But as it went on, it's a series that proved that while like honoring what the legacy of the comics and the show coming before, showed that it can still stand on its two webbed feet, of its own
All
two
right.
webbed.
Okay, folks. So neither Jacob or I, to tell you the truth, have had the time to go back and rewatch season one of DuckTales, unfortunately. So we're going to do this kind of on a whim. And of course, this is timely in nature because in a week from now, we'll be seeing the premiere of season one, or season two, I mean. So that's exciting. It came here very, very fast, Jacob. It felt like not so long wait at all. So let's dive into it with Woohoo, a pilot episode that really set a great precedent for the show.
Oh heck yeah!
Um, I, I think to me the kind of the big promise of the episode that didn't really get lived up to until much later on in the series was the Scrooge and Donald dynamic.
Yeah, that was only ever briefly touched upon in some of the future episodes.
Yeah,
And
but in this episode, it was kind of a central focus, and I think it kind of makes the episode stand out all the more. Great introductions for all the characters. I just think, I don't want to really dwell on it too much because, of course, we've got 23 episodes to go over. So, of course, this is just kind of our final thoughts on all of them. But I think if I have one thing to say about it, I don't necessarily think the Atlantis subplot was as strong as the just the introduction and going. Like I think it's a very strong introductory point. Like just in general, I think all the characters were introduced very fluidly into it. And the Atlantis thing, I felt like was just kind of like it was a standard adventure that could have happened at any point in the season, really.
I feel that, but it's
Tied
a good,
into the events of the first episode.
it's a
But
it's a good it's a good it was a good familiar place to start.
yeah, you're right. You're not wrong about that at all. You know, and it didn't pull a Rick and Morty and do some like kind of crazy like, oh, we're gonna say it's Atlantis, but instead it's like a crazy like twist right at the beginning.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, like I said, the best thing about this episode is it really sets things off on the right foot with the mystery, the dynamic between Scrooge and Donald, which I wish was developed more in the series. And Launchpad very much being on point as the comic relief. It all felt like very familiar territory. Of course, we got kind of some relaunches of characters with Webby and Beakley, both kind of revamped from the original series. Just all very, very good stuff. I love the dynamic of the Duck siblings being kind of like this legend in the house, kind of like you're like the Donald Duck being the adventurer. Like I said, unfortunately, stuff that I wish was explored more. But
Hmm.
overall, very, very solid place to start.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Day Trip of Doom. This was a very forgettable one, honestly.
Yes, had some interesting moments, but basically it was just basically it was just to show that there was the second episode that showed that they could still have a somewhat solid episode without Scrooge.
Sure, sure. Of course, it's the first appearance by the Beagle Boys, which is a solid place to start with them. I did like the location of the Funzo's Fun Zone. Kind of like this almost Five Nights at Freddy's esque kind of Chuck E. Cheese knockoff. That And I think it did kind of set a nice standard where, it kind of gave us a good balance of like some episodes are going to be adventure episodes and other episodes are going to be more urban episodes focused on the nephews and the kids. So, at the very least, it set some groundwork there for the patterns of the show.
And not to mention that every single Beagle Boy is voiced by the same exact person,
Yeah, Eric Bauza.
which is very impressive.
Indeed, indeed. All right. The Great Time Chase. This one I thought was a little bit better looking back on it. I feel like it set a good precedent for Dewey as a character.
and it pre- and it pretty much like set the standard of like an adventure episode at home.
It did. It did. Of course, it revealed some mysteries about Della. Dewey and Webby get that dynamic that they explore the whole season. That was one of the arcs of the season that was really satisfying. Of course, we get to see Louis as kind of like the entrepreneurial type that he'll really come into his own by the end of the season. And one of the things I really remember about this episode is it was a great kind of exploration into the how the money vault operates.
And we learn why it looks so much emptier than normal later on.
Unfortunately, this episode does introduce one of the weak points of the season, which I've been told by commenters to give it a chance, and I will, and I'm looking forward to hopefully him winning me over in season two. But Gyro just didn't do it for me in season one, man. He was way too much of a jerk.
Yeah, you can see that. I can definitely see where you're coming from on that.
All right. Okay, Beagle Birthday Massacre. This one was a fun one. I feel like it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. It's a good kind of standalone episode. It doesn't advance the plot in any way, but it's just like, all the Beagle boys like kind of trying to outdo themselves for Ma Beagle's birthday. Of course, it's the first appearance of Margot Martindale as Ma Beagle, so that's
Actually,
all.
actually, she was briefly in Day Trip of Doom.
Oh, was she? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um, Also, remind me, this is also the first episode that Lena appears in, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like this is an episode that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. That really is it's a solid one that has both a lot of comedy and a lot of there is some plot there with Lena, and of course the reveal of Magica being involved in the series, kind of like the first kind of kickoff of the Magica plot line. Very solid one, Jacob. This one's one of the ones that would be on my short list of ones to revisit.
Yeah, it's definitely like a step up from Day Trip of Doom for the Beagle Boys.
Uh All right, Terror of the Terra Firmians. The thing I remember the most about this episode is the fact that I was on vacation when this episode aired, and we did the podcast on this episode on vacation. And so, therefore, Jacob, I got to admit it's kind of a blur for me.
Yeah, it's another one that gets lost in the shuffle. I mean, it's interesting, but it's just like the one of the ones in a row without Scrooge or anything. It just kind of like maybe if it was placed later, it would have been more memorable. But since it's placed early, it just kind of like loses its focus a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I believe this is the first time that we see the Junior Woodchuck guidebook in the series. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think you're wrong. I think you're pretty much correct in that
Uh-huh.
regard.
Okay. Not much to say there. But I do have a
I mean,
lot to say about episode 6, House of the Lucky Gander.
I think number two episode for number two worst episode for me.
Okay, okay. This is definitely the number one worst episode for me. I'm curious to see what your number one is.
It's
Um, yeah.
it's a it's a weird pick, but it'll be a weird. It's a weird pick. Trust me.
Okay. Is it going to
I
be
mean, I
like
don't even,
critic, like you're really not going to like it?
no, it's not that. It's just like it's just one that I just don't know why. Really, that's what I mean.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, House of the Lucky Gander was just kind of a mess, frankly.
I mean, it did have some. It had some interesting concepts, like the dragon, like the ghost feeding off luck and all that. That was a pretty interesting concept.
And you know what? The villain was even BD freaking Wong.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that guest star is kind of overruled by another guest star that I really didn't like, Jacob. Paul F. Tompkins, Mr. Peanut Butter himself. Oh man. And he's just basically playing Mr. Peanut Butter, Jacob, and that's what I couldn't stand about it.
I have I haven't heard much about him, but I can probably guess he voices that kind of character quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know him in anything other than Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack, but I'm sure I've seen him in other things, probably in smaller roles. Yeah, but in this one, I don't know. Like, if anyone is listening and they're like a fan of this episode, by all means, take no offense to like. I'm not saying it's a terrible episode or I hate it or anything. I'm just saying it really didn't do it for me, and like subjectively, I really didn't like the character of Gladstone at all, and the performance by Paul F. Tompkins, basically repeating his performance on BoJack, really didn't help. Uh, Dragon and I are both like big fans of BoJack on every level except Mr. Peanut Butter. So that kind of, it's not that he's a low point with the series. It's just like he's like the character that kind of grates on you a little bit after a while. Anyways, I digress.
Alrighty.
Okay, so episode 7 is actually quite good, I thought, because just looking back on it, the infernal internship of Mark Beeks.
Yeah, really, it definitely was an interesting one. 'Cause, like, it definitely just showcased it. One major highlight is the teaming up of is the almost team up of Scrooge and Glomgold.
Uh-huh.
It's like and basically how out of how basically how out of place Mark Beeks is in this old money kind of billionaires club.
And Mark Meeks is a character I definitely think has potential to be more intimidating as the show goes on.
Yeah, I remember we at once at one point thought he was like going to be one of the main villains.
Yeah, I know, and that was kind of dumb on my part. I should have predicted that Magica was going to be the main, like, they were kind of building to her the whole time. It was kind of right in front of my face, but
I mean, it's entirely possible he might become a major adversary later on, though.
mhm.
I mean, there was at one point where he did become very dangerous, which we'll probably get to later on.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's definitely interesting. It's like he's definitely an interesting kind of villain. It's like it's not exactly like he's overtly evil, but it's a different kind of evil in a way.
Of
Like
course,
like
uh,
like like
I'm
compared to
sorry,
other
go ahead.
like compared to other stuff, it's kind of a more realistic kind of evil and malicious.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't even say evil. I would just say malicious at this point.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I'm kind of really. I mean, he's pretty much crossed the line from evil to straight up jerk.
Yeah, yeah.
Not much more we can say on that one.
All right, let's get to the living mummies of Toth Ra. I honestly don't really remember much about this one.
Yeah, it was kind of forgettable. I mean, it had some interesting moments, like the whole concept of the mummies being fooled by one of their own, and Scrooge buying burritos for everyone. The fact that a revolution was caused by burritos.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got nothing. This is one of the episodes that just kind of blends together in my memory. I remember liking it enough, but I also remember just kind of like when we were talking about it being like, yeah, that was okay enough, but it didn't really do much for me. All right. But you know what
And
did do a lot for me, Jacob?
the impossible summit of Mount Neverest.
Yes, is this in your top five?
It's my number 2 best.
Number two best. All right, all right. Yeah, I would say it's probably I don't have a ranking for my top five, but it's definitely up there. This is a classic DuckTales adventure in the best sense of the word. It's got everything. It's got a great comedy. It's got an awesome premise with the teleportation and everything. It's got a good mystery with Scrooge. It's got Scrooge overcoming personal demons.
The Neverest Ninny.
Best one of the best Scrooge performances this season. I mean, this episode really fires on all cylinders. This was the point where I was like, okay, this series could be something.
Yeah, it's like you've had an interesting subplot with the triplets and Launchpad.
Uh,
This episode really just real like this episode was definitely one of the definitely classic. I mean,
oh yeah.
what's funny is that it's technically the 9th episode, but only the 4th one made. Yet they held it back apparently because it had snow in it.
That's so dumb. I don't even want to go on a rant about that. I could
I mean, here's the gap. Living Mummies of Tothra have aired for me, like they had a steady schedule before that from August to basically October 28th, and then Mount Everest was December 2nd, and then the Spear of Selene was the next episode. The Spear of Selene was in May of to this year,
uh-huh.
which is
Yeah,
it
that's
kind of went for like a month delay. Then it's just weird.
you know what? At the very least, though, it was incredibly consistent on a weekly basis. Nice.
Yep. And admittedly, it was a nice episode to cap off of too. So I guess saving that one for the hiatus was probably a good choice in the long run.
You know what? I'd like to think that was more the reason why they saved that one for episode 9 rather than like, oh, it's snow and it's December.
Well, at least I hope. At least we hope so.
Yeah. All right, so Spear of Selene. This is another really fun one. It's a classic kind of DuckTales setup where they they go to a new society and an exotic location and they meet a bunch of colorful side characters. Of course, we
I
get
really
the
like.
go ahead.
Oh, so I really like Storkules.
Yes, Storkules was a lot of fun this episode. Of course,
Fred
Michael
Donald.
Zeus.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, and they definitely had a lot of fun moments, and like we feel the Spear of Selene is from the goddess herself, not actually related to anything that the mystery. It's basically just all it basically did was like try to like maybe hint at Della's more mischievous side.
Mm. But it was still a good plot point, and of course, the plot point itself of the information kind of comes back in a big way towards the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
All right, so where the buddy system, the big introduction of Gizmo Duck. I thought this episode was handled really well.
Yeah, it's probably like the best of the 2 episodes of Gizmo Duck, not counting the Shadow War. I thought this was like probably the best one.
Oh, easily the best one. Yeah, there's one really good moment in the other one that I want to highlight, but other than that, that episode wasn't that great. But this one, yeah, it's very solid. It's a really good origin story. I love the way they kind of reinvented Fenton Crackshell as Fenton Crackshell Cabrera.
with everyone's
It's a much more classy way to use Lin-Manuel Miranda than just throwing him into Mary Poppins Returns and giving him like a "Oi, oh, it's good to be back, Mary Poppins." You know, I mean, I guess at
that was
least,
like, believe it or not, that was actually that was all his idea, the accent.
basically to do it like as an homage to Dick Van Dyke, I imagine.
Yep, that was pretty much his idea. He said like he even called it like one of the worst British accents of all time. Like so he pretty so he pretty yes, so that was pretty much intentional on his part.
And I want to make it clear, I'm like Mary Poppins Returns is the movie I'm most looking forward to for the rest of 2018. All right, like I'm stoked for that movie. So, but, I even thought that Gyro was kind of tolerable in this episode because he served a plot function.
It was kind of like I said. That's one reason why I think it's a better episode altogether. Like
Uh,
it's like Gizmo Dog. He's kind of like the classic Peter Parker. It's like he's just like this guy trying to make a name for himself, living with his mother.
uh,
And he's just like and trying to make a name for himself,
of
trying to
course,
make do what he can,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
just trying to do what he can to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, in both of the Gizmo Duck episodes, Mark Beeks kind of has a strong presence and kind of is like, like we'll get to it, but the second Gizmo Duck episode especially was really the one that kind of put my whole like, oh man, Mark Beeks could be like a legitimately threatening antagonist at certain points.
He was definitely. I mean, this is definitely set up the interesting arc that episode hinted at, but fell flat, kind of.
Yeah.
But this definitely showed the more dangerous side of Mark Beeks, and definitely showed an interest. And the ending action sequence with Gizmo Duck chasing down the car was actually was really exciting.
Mhm. All right, episode 12 is the missing links of Moorshire. Honestly, like it's got some fun dynamics between Scrooge and Glomgold, but other than that, it's really kind of a filler episode for me.
Yeah, it wasn't really too high on my list either.
And it's one of the ones that like it just kind of runs together for me. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, all right, it's oddly enough, it's kind of like the mini golf episode of Gravity Falls in that it doesn't really have that much to do with the plot. But like that episode,
It
that
didn't have
episode has
it
the
didn't have big
iconic Big Henry.
it didn't have Big Henry.
No, God bless Big Henry.
Rest in peace, Big Henry.
I gotta say, Dre, I gotta say, Jacob, Big Henry is like the missing ingredient to any golf-based episode.
Rest in peace, Big Henry.
All right. Yeah, other than that, I really got nothing. It was just kind of a standard. Like it wasn't even what bothered me about it is that it wasn't an episode centered around the kids, but it wasn't an adventure-based episode either. It was just kind of like, all right, like we already know what Scrooge and Glomgold's dynamic is like, so this is just kind of like more of the same at this point.
I mean, the idea of the Kelpies was interesting, and the fact they're able to get extras from My Little Pony was also really cool. But it just felt like just an idea that didn't fully live up to its potential.
Yeah.
I mean, the ending was interesting, where they potentially would get trapped in stone, but other than that, really didn't do much with it.
Right, but you know what did do a lot with its premise, Jacob?
McMystery and McDuck McManor.
Yeah, this is definitely a top 5 episode for me. I really, really love this episode.
Oh yeah, it's definitely it would definitely be one of my favorites too.
And of course, Duckworth's ghost haunted our nightmares.
Oh yeah, it's so spooky, such spooky.
Duckworth's ghost just made us question our sanity.
Oh yeah.
God. All right. In all seriousness, yeah, this was just a really well pulled off murder mystery. It was just a genuinely good mystery.
It definitely had a classic mystery-esque twist too, like Scrooge. Like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the episode, Scrooge is behind everything the entire time, and basically, It resulted in Duckworth's ghost.
And it's a really good use of the ensemble. We get some good gags with Mark Meeks and Glomgold briefly as party guests.
Yeah, basically, that's a good idea. Invite every single one of Scrooge's enemies.
And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention DJ Daft.
Duck.
Like, honestly, Jacob, that's by far my favorite gag in the whole season.
You can't take that helmet off, can you? No, 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 no. Oh God.
Oh, I love it. I love it. They should do like a Space Mountain overlay theme to DJ Daft Duck.
Heck yeah.
Anyways. Okay, episode 14 is Jaw $.
Yes.
So this one was a fun kind of standalone premise with the giant money shark.
Yep. I definitely really liked the inventiveness of that one. It was like it was definitely one of his it's definitely one of the more fun ones of these later times, of these later episodes.
Uh
It's like an adventure episode self-contained with like an urban episode.
yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. It's got a really fun premise. It's got some good plot development between Lena and Magica.
Yeah, and even like examined a bit of Scrooge's impact on the city.
Uh
It's like what
Overall,
part of
like
like
this episode isn't in my top five, but I'd say it's kind of an underappreciated one.
yeah, yeah, it kind of is. It's like, so what part of Ireland are you from? Okay. All right. Anything to say about anything else about Jaws?
Nope, sorry, I was just closing my window because there's a party going on downstairs. Next episode, the Golden Lagoon of White Agony Plains. This was another fantastic one. I would say probably just barely misses out on my top five.
I remember when we first discussed this, it wasn't one of your favorites.
I just really like Goldie as a character. This is one that maybe kind of grew on me a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, because he felt like some of the ending got kind of repetitive, like, oh, she's betraying her, no, she's not, and then going on back and forth. But I
No,
mean,
I that I just think Allison Janney did such a good job. I mean, um, one of the best guest spots, along with Lin-Manuel Miranda of the season.
yeah, I really enjoyed this episode myself.
Uh,
It was, it was like basically one of the longest episodes we got with Scrooge as like one of the leads without really anybody else other than
yeah,
Gold.
yeah, that's true.
Basically, it was just like an adventure episode with Scrooge, and basically we got some hint at Scrooge's longevity. He's like, the gold rush. How old are you? It's definitely one of my favorite exchanges. That he's just like, nah.
All right, episode 16, Day of the Only Child. This is one I remember not liking that much.
This is my number one least favorite.
And I could see why, because Doofus Drake is just, man, talk about a reinvention of a character that went south.
Yeah, I wasn't really too big of a fan. Like the three individual stories could have been interesting, but they didn't intersect all that well. The character was just weird and creepy, and not in a good way. And it just felt like a lot of it.
Onion on Steven Universe.
I mean, obviously I haven't watched that show yet, but I've probably heard something about that, but not as bad as Ronaldo or anything. But
Oh no, I'm sorry. Ronaldo's worse. You're right. Ronaldo's worse. Doofus is much more like Ronaldo.
it's like I haven't watched.
Onion is kind of an enigma. It's like you either love or you hate Onion, and I either love or hate Onion depending on the episode. But Ronaldo is just awful all the way around.
I mean, I haven't even watched the show, and I know horror stories about Ronaldo.
Oh God, Jacob. There's this one episode called Rock Naldo. All right, Rock Naldo. It's so bad. It's so bad. Anyways,
But yeah, like this episode really wasn't that didn't really interest me that much. It's like it had some interesting concepts, like Dewey on a late night show, like doing his own late night show. That was
Oh
really
yeah, I love that. I love that. Like Jacob, I will say Dewey did quickly become my favorite character on the show, and there was a moment on my recent Disney trip where I saw a $20 plush of Dewey, and it's like I wanted to get it so bad, but I couldn't justify it.
was it the Dewey of the like the Dewey from this show?
Yes, yes, the Dewey from this show.
Ah,
Like they had Huey, Dewey, and Louie, but obviously I'd go with Dewey.
yeah, I probably would too, honestly. But I mean, that was probably like the only good part of this episode. It's just like almost everything in this episode just felt forced for the sake of it being the way it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, it's just like it's like it's like they did this like thing where they like split up. Webby tries to get them back together. It's just like they're gonna do it anyway. So what's the point?
Uh-huh.
And then, like I said, the villain of the episode wasn't even really that interesting.
Yeah, yeah, overall kind of weak sauce.
Yeah, that's like that. I mean,
Was it
that's
weak sauce?
what
You know what wasn't weak sauce?
I'll tell you what wasn't. I'll tell you what wasn't weak sauce.
What wasn't weak
My
sauce?
fourth favorite episode of this. What? Lead into the next one.
Yeah, from the confidential case files of Agent 22. I'm sorry, we could have done that a lot more smooth. Um,
I'll say I'll tell you what isn't weak sauce. My fourth favorite episode.
okay.
From the confidential case files of Agent 22.
This was actually my number one, Jacob, believe it or not.
Ooh. Honestly, I'm actually not surprised by that.
Yeah, I just think the way that it flashes back and forth in time in almost kind of a Nolan-esque way is just genius.
I'm honestly surprised the Mount Everest wasn't your favorite.
No, Mount Everest is definitely a strong contender.
Yeah, this probably,
Jacob, I'm a Ludwig von Drake fanboy and a Corey Burden fanboy, so that alone kind of elevates the episode for me.
I can definitely see where you're coming from on that one.
But like I
And
the flashback structure of this episode, it was a really, really good use of flashback.
Oh, yeah, and how it weaved the plot weaved the plot and how it didn't actually just feel like a cheap gimmick.
That's what I'm saying. And this episode got Monkey into gummy bears, which he actually has a kind of a passion for now.
Yeah, that's the interesting. It turned like it just turned like the innocent gummy berry juice from the original series into a weapon of mass destruction.
It basically turned gummy berry juice into vibranium.
Oh yeah, that's great.
It had a pretty good villain in the Black Heron, voiced by April Winchell.
Voice daughter of one of the voice actors from the original show, Paul Winchell.
Mm-hmm. I really like the design on the Black Heron.
What?
I said I really like the design on Black Heron.
Yeah, I really liked her as a villain. I mean, I wish we'd see more of her, but I think she got killed in the explosion.
Uh-huh.
But she was definitely an interesting villain. That one I wish we could see like more like her.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she was kind of like Falcon Graves from the Mark Beeks episode, but more like on an international scale.
Sure. And of course, we get a lot of development on Beakley, which will basically lead into her role in the finale and going forward in the show.
And of course, that had a wonderful bonding moment between Webby and Scrooge. Call me
Yeah.
Uncle Scrooge.
Oh God, yeah.
Call me Uncle Scrooge.
Jacob, I don't think anything's ever going to top Grunkle Stan. I trust you. But I don't know. That came close. That came close. All right. So who is Gizmo Duck?
Yeah, that's another one that we were both not very big fans of.
I like certain elements of it. Specifically, I like Huey's role in the episode. I really like the whole when he
throw away my trust in you.
Yeah. Like that was a scene that still really sticks out to me. That's just a really good superhero scene.
It's like, in the recycling bin, you monster.
But generally speaking, it's just kind of
Yeah,
say there
I,
are some very creepy. There are some very creepy Mark Beeks moments in this episode. Like Mark
I,
Beeks basically becomes an obsessive fanboy for Gizmo Duck.
yeah, and even actually manages to steal the Gizmo Duck suit.
Uh-huh. But
I
that's the
mean,
thing. That's like the biggest disappointment of the episode is that the suit instantly malfunctions.
yeah, I mean, like this episode could have been a lot if they would like establish all that stuff at pretty much the beginning of the episode
Yeah, yeah.
instead of dragging everything out. Like, I mean, it tried to be like both Spider-Man, kind of be like they kind of like tried to be both Spider-Man 2 and 3 at the same time, but
Oh
failed.
God. And sadly, I feel like Gyro is more abrasive than ever in this episode, which kind of drags it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I wasn't like so neither of us really big fans of the episode, and that was actually probably one of my least favorites in retrospect.
Yeah. All right. We haven't gotten to your least favorite, Jacob, have. Oh wait, yeah, we did. My bad.
Which, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go over like one of the other all the others, but yeah, Dave the Only Child was pretty much the only episode I really could not like.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, episode 18, The Other Bin of Scrooge McDuck. This was a really solid character-based episode.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like half of it was at least.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the half with Lena and Webby in the vault was really compelling stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like that really kind of kicked off the last part of the season for me in a really good way.
The part with the tender feet.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least, but it's just like those two episodes were playing tug of war with each other.
I hear you. I hear
Pretty much,
you.
pretty much the only thing that linked them together was Scrooge.
Of course, this is where we get closer and closer to full body Magica with Magica possessing Lena, so that's interesting to see.
Yeah, and the whole, and basically she actually gets to possess Lena. That like the whole black
Uh,
eyes thing that's definitely creepy.
oh yeah. Right. Anything else about that one?
I was like, it's pretty much like it's a solid episode, and like I said, I think the Tenderfeet episode could have been Tenderfeet stuff that could have been an episode all on its own. But it just seems like they put these two episodes together just like for the sake of filling out an episode, just kind of like they kind of just like like thematically clashed.
Uh,
I mean, it's not a bad
all
episode
right.
by any means, and nowhere near the worst. But that's just
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
hear you. I feel like it's a good lead to the events of the last episodes. It's like I said, it's more character focused than anything else. It's just it's not really. I'd say it's if I had to make a top 10, I'd say it'd probably be comfortably in the bottom half of my top 10.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. All right. So Sky Pirates in the Sky. This one I think is the most forgettable of the last stretch of episodes.
I mean, it had its moments like especially like especially the Don Carnage songs.
Don Carnage is a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I just think that's basically all this episode. This episode is just kind of like a showpiece for Don Carnage and not much more.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they use him more in the future. I mean, unless they start using him for like a Tailspin revival.
Uh-huh. Which I would be entirely down for. Don't get me wrong.
No, I mean, I mean, like Cape Sue's. I mean, that's pretty much like their most referenced Disney afternoon show. I mean, other than obviously the original DuckTales, of course. But I mean, it's pretty much like their most referenced shows. Like they mentioned Cape Suzette multiple times throughout the series. And now they have Don Carnage, who wasn't even mentioned in the original DuckTales, I don't think.
Mhm.
So it's like it's pretty interesting that like if we can see, hopefully they do Tailspin because that show is actually a lot better than I remember it being.
No, Tailspin is a lot of fun, man. It really is. Like Tailspin is like pulp cartoon action at its finest.
starring characters from the Jungle
I
Book.
still think the original Tailspin did like pulp cartoon like adventure a little bit better than the original DuckTales did, if I'm being honest with you.
Starring Jungle Book characters. Nonetheless.
It was a weird combination, dude, but it worked.
I mean, I'm not denying that. I mean, Tailspin's awesome. But
I'd even be down for. I'm surprised that Rescue Rangers hasn't been mentioned in some capacity.
yeah, I mean, that would be interesting too.
All right.
Especially considering Chip and Dale's history with Donald.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I'd like to. I'd just love to see like a Chip and Dale episode, like where they like a Rescue Rangers episode that focuses on that with Donald as a lead, as part of a lead character or something. Like
That'd be great.
It basically be combining the story of the series with like their history with Donald Duck.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Gotta love the the potential Disney afternoon cinematic universe that we have at play here.
Yep. Heck, they even mentioned Spoonerville, so there's Goof Troop somewhere in there.
God. All right, episode 21, The Secrets of Castle McDuck. This might be my number 2 favorite, honestly.
Yeah, and speaking of which, speaking of castle stuff, they also need to mention gargoyles somewhere.
Yeah, right.
This
Castle
is also
McDuck.
one of my favorites. This is
Yeah,
also one of
go
my
ahead.
favorites too.
Great casting on Scrooge's parents. Really, really good location. It was kind of a good mix of a personal episode and an adventure episode and a mystery all at the same time. It just had a lot of good elements to it.
Yeah, it's like the ghosts and hounds of Castle McDuck. Scrooge and his father going on their own adventure. Basically, and the relationship between the triplets coming to an interesting conclusion. Plus, we got to see Launchpad impersonating Donald.
Oh God! Oh, I almost forgot about that. That was priceless.
It's like, oh boy,
oh boy, oh boy.
Oh God, that was that was absolutely priceless.
All right. And I gotta say, Jacob, this whole last stretch of 3 episodes is just all of them are fantastic because we get the last crash of the Sun Chaser, which honestly, like, that might also be a solid contender for the best episode of the season. It really might be.
I actually chose that as my favorite one.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, that's fine then. I'll stick with what I had as my favorite. But yeah, fantastic episode.
I mean, it can all basically be summed up in one sentence. I am.
I know, right? 2 words, 2 short words, 3 letters.
Oh yeah. I mean, this episode, like, it has like the standard premise and even the title of like a standard adventure episode. But
No, I don't even think the episode is that standard because what it really is it's a fantastic bottle episode. Like, it starts out as a standard adventure, but
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like
plane crash. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like the title of it, and like even the beginning of the episode, like seems to imply it's going to be a standard adventure episode, but it pretty much turns the entire premise on its head.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And of course, we get the dramatic confrontation between Scrooge and the nephews, which was kind of a big boiling point. The last 5 minutes in particular, it's just like really kind of emotionally devastating.
Yeah, it's like they're all accusing Scrooge, and Scrooge, the way he is, doesn't really explain himself very well. And we don't learn until the very end. Like he's like maybe he did try to abandon her or something, or maybe he did do that. But no, it's like he almost bankrupted himself trying to look for her and look for Della.
Yeah.
And it actually was pretty much Della's fault that she abandoned her unborn sons. It's really going to be an interesting family reunion if they ever find her.
And of course, we'd be remiss not to mention the looping Darkwing Duck episode.
Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. It's like, Dewey, the Darkwing Duck is still on loop. Or whatever. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that. I think it was in the buddy system, that Darkwing Duck one. You got to see Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, of course, my dream scenario is that it's going to be kind of like that the actor playing Darkwing Duck is going to be a character in the show who eventually becomes a superhero in his own right.
That'd be awesome. Hopefully, a
Maybe
Darkwing.
Duck takes him under his wing or something.
I'd love to see like a Darkwing Duck revival too. It's like, even if it's just like presented as like the show within the show.
Kind of like Buzz Lightyear or Star Command was.
Maybe, yeah, kinda. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, it gets more Darkwing.
I just want to see a new take on Gosling.
Yeah, Goslin would be pretty interesting to see. I mean, like, if they
Like,
can
they
get
did a great job with Webby. So how good would it be if they took a character that was already fantastic and modernized it?
well, if done right, it could be it could be
If
fantastic.
done right, yeah, exactly. Because as I'm saying that, I'm realizing like, or it could be like totally bad and not, obviously like God rest her soul, Christine Kavanaugh, like iconic performance that would be hard to measure up to. But we'll see, we'll see.
Yeah, Last Grasp
All
of the
right.
Sun, it's like fires on all cylinders. It's like definitely some of the best examples, but some of the best writing in the entire show so far.
Yeah. All right, and that just leaves us with Shadow Wars, which is frankly no short of epic.
Yeah, I didn't put it in my top 5, but it'd probably be in my top 7 or 6, maybe.
Honestly, the only reason I don't put it in my top 5 is just because like it's a 43-minute episode, and I feel like putting it it's damn good. I just don't think it's maybe as standalone as some of the other episodes are because it's such a culmination.
As an hour-long episode, I didn't think it was better than Woo, honestly. But maybe in retrospect it was. I just going based off foggy memory there.
Sure.
But it was definitely, I won't deny it was a pretty epic episode.
I mean, I just thought it was a great way to get everyone involved. Like they even managed to give Gladstone a brief cameo that I didn't mind.
It's like where Shadow gives him money.
Of course, I loved the Duckworth's ghost cameo.
And even like we even got to see Donald in action again.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I'm really trying not to harp on. Of course, probably the biggest, you know, the biggest issue I had with DuckTales season 1 was the lack of Donald. But I gotta just kind of have faith that they know what they're doing with it, and we'll get more Donald in the future. The Three Caballeros is definitely confirmed for season 2, so at the very least, we're going to get one episode with that, which should, in likelihood, hopefully be a standalone episode of Donald.
That would be pretty interesting. It was interesting that in a lot of this episode, he wasn't even voiced by Tony Anselmo.
Yeah, but I feel like we got more than enough Tony and Selmo for what they did with the voice gimmick. I feel like I feel like they made up for not having Tony and Selmo throughout the season. We got more than enough with him.
I know, and they used him well enough.
Uh-huh.
It's just kind of interesting to note that he was able to take down many shadows, including Gizmo Duck, by himself. I mean, think about it. He was able to take down pretty much an entire army by himself.
Yeah.
Plus, it's kind of interesting to see, basically, to see Magico in her full form once again. See what she's like here.
Uh-huh.
Well, not much more we can talk about. Like, basically, everything ended on a happy note. Lena's living happily in Matt and Webby's shadow, which is, by the way, she was actually Magica's living shadow, which she gains sentience to get
Yeah,
back.
that was a big twist that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, that was definitely quite interesting. Like I didn't quite expect that.
Uh-huh.
But now she's living happily with as Webby's shadow, and everyone's just basically. I mean, the one thing that's weird is that, especially considering the preceding episode, like with Last Guys to Sunday, it's just like, and they kind of like kind of like lampshade this a bit, but the familiar was just like what, kind of like hand waved away very quickly. I mean, like with especially with Beakley saying like, "I'm both a spy and a grandmother. I'm good at emotionally manipulating people."
Right, right.
I mean, it just felt like it just kind of like got hand waved, and that's pretty much my only. It's not really a major complaint. It's just like it seemed to got resolved kind of quickly.
No, I feel you. I feel you.
But we did get an interesting cliffhanger at the end of the episode, though.
Indeed. Which kind of hints at maybe, like I said, a moon level, perhaps.
Like so a lot of people actually said that the little bit of the moon theme actually appears in the at the end of the episode. So
I don't doubt it. I have to go back and like rewatch for myself.
but yeah, it's like it'll definitely be interesting. Definitely be interesting to see how it goes forward. That definitely ended on a satisfying note for the season.
Uh-huh.
And
All right. That takes us into season 2. The first episode is called The Most Dangerous Game, Night. I'm excited for that one. It sounds like, if I were to predict it, it sounds like it's going to be kind of a, maybe an episode that kind of reintroduces us to the characters, maybe just like a casual episode that doesn't have too big of an adventure, maybe more of a mystery within the mansion itself. Of course, I like Game Night is one of my top 10 movies of the year. I really love Jesse Plemons, and maybe we'll get some creepy neighbor in the style of Jesse Plemons. Who knows?
and considering it's tight, who knows? I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be like a game of like like a standard most dangerous game plot or anything like that. But it's like if it's anything like like any like the previous like shows we've seen like Gravity Falls and Starve, where it's like if it's like it's a board game gone awry, that'll also be very interesting to see.
Uh-uh.
Because it's been like a standard trope in like some of these most recent shows. It's like I mean, Gravity Falls at dungeons, dungeons, and more dungeons, and I and Star had the Truth Cube, which wasn't really a board game, but kind of had a similar plot element.
Right, right.
So that should be interesting. And then
All right.
and then the depths
Go
of
ahead.
Cousin Feathery.
Yeah, is that a comic book character? Do you know, Jacob?
The name sounds familiar. I think so.
Cool, cool. We'll see how that goes. All right. Okay, folks. Well, that's about it for season 1. Definitely looking forward to the launch of season 2 next Saturday. We'll probably be able to cover it either next Saturday or next Sunday, depending. And let's see. Any final cap? Just overall season thoughts in general.
It definitely a solid first season. I mean, like it definitely if they like take what they did with this first season and improved upon it, we'll have like it'll be definitely a great season. It'll definitely be a great season if like. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they take like some of the best elements from each of the best episodes and just basically improve upon some of the weaker elements of this, it'll definitely be worth watching once again.
All right, folks. Well, that'll do it for us. I hope you enjoyed the retrospective, and see you back on Monday to talk about Big Hero 6, the finale of that, before launching into DuckTales. Jacob, the schedule has been really, really consistent in terms of like we got that whole season of DuckTales pretty much, or at least that whole half of the season, and then we got a whole half of the season of Big Hero 6. And now we're kind of launching into another consistent, like the airing on this has been like we've been spoiled on it. We really have.
So hopefully it means they've learned their lesson.
Yeah, hopefully the days of Gravity Falls are behind us.
And from the looks of things, they're actually airing them in their production order too.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. That's really important for season 2 because I assume season 2 is going to be even more serialized.
Yeah, because game night is 201 and Feathery is 202.
Uh,
So hopefully that means like they've finally learned like maybe we should air these episodes in order.
all right. So that'll do it, folks. Stay tuned. Like I said, Big Hero 6 will be on Monday where we'll be covering the finale of that one. And then we'll be back next Saturday to cover the season premiere of DuckTales. In the meantime, woohoo! Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.